Mac and Me is one of those movies that I've always wanted to review, but I just never got around to it. Until now. Obviously. The movie is often regarded as one of the worst films ever made, and it failed to make back even half of its $13 million budget at the box office. Now, if you've never heard of this movie or you're just too young to remember it, the movie came out in the late 80s and was pretty much just a blatant ripoff of E.T. Seriously, they're not even subtle about it at all. From the posters to the various sequences throughout the movie. And yes, a lot of movies steal from each other, but this movie does such a piss poor job at it that it's laughable. I should probably also comment on how this movie is more of a commercial than an actual film. The amount of product placement in this movie is staggering, and yes, a lot of movies have product placements in them, but again, this movie just throws all the subtlety right out the window. It's not that the products are just there as part of the set, they're actually part of the story. From characters working at McDonald's to a giant 5-minute long dance scene taking place at McDonald's, to having everyone drinking Coca-Cola in the movie and even using it for medicinal purposes. I'm serious, I'm not making this up. So the movie starts off with Mac and his family on their home planet doing what they normally do, which is, I guess, try and drink out of the ground with the straw. I just don't know how these creature designs actually made it through to the actual production. I mean, to each his own, but it just looks so fucking stupid. Anyways, NASA or somebody sends this probe to the planet to collect, I don't know, space rocks, and Mac and his family end up getting sucked into it somehow. Back at NASA, they're checking the probe, and the aliens pop out, and then the whole thing just explodes for some reason. And in all honesty, I would probably freak out too if I saw a face like that staring back at me. Now, I would think that sort of glass would be super thick to prevent any sort of contamination, and he just breaks it just by leaning on it slightly. It's really amazing that the aliens can just make anything blow up just by touching it. So they kind of get separated and both try to escape the base, and Mac just gets blown out of the base by a helicopter and then lands on a car, causing a massive pileup. I just don't understand how they would let them just walk out. Like, they're all aiming guns at them, and then the aliens just keep going and they just say, hold your fire. So I guess you just let them go? Alien creatures? Don't shoot them, don't harm them, don't restrain them at all, just point guns at them and hope that they won't leave. Some lady grabs a fire extinguisher and starts spraying these people for no reason. Mac hops into this van, and at the checkpoint they're searching every car for the alien and they don't even see Mac, even though he's just sitting in the back. Gee, you'd think if there was an alien on the loose with the power to blow stuff up just by touching it, you'd be a bit more thorough, but I guess not. Anyways, inside the van is this kid named Eric and his family, and they're moving to California. And it's not until the next day when Eric learns about Mac, after Mac drills holes in the wall, cuts a hole in the door, and basically destroys the whole house. Of course, everyone blames Eric for this, so he goes out looking for the alien. And what follows is not only my favorite scene in the movie, but probably one of my favorite scenes of all time in cinematic history.
Eric! Like... Eric, stop! Oh my gosh! Eric!
Gee, thanks for the advice. I'm just gonna throw this out here, but maybe he can't swim because, you know, he's confined to a wheelchair. I love the shot of Mac here diving into the water because it's obvious they just threw the alien into the water and let it sink to make it look like it was diving deeper. Anyways, he saves Eric, but no one saw the alien, so everybody thinks that Eric jumped off the cliff by himself. Like he's suicidal or something. So Eric tries to catch Mac by leaving out cups of Coca-Cola and a trail of straws for him to follow. You know, it's interesting. I could have sworn I saw a sequence like this in another Alien movie, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And they catch him by sucking him into a vacuum cleaner, which of course leads to a whole new set of problems. Mac gets into this kind of Power Wheels thing and starts bombing around the neighborhood, and all the dogs are chasing after him, so he crashes the vehicle and somehow gets stuck in a tree. And then out of nowhere we have this musical interlude, and there's no real point to it. I mean, it's just kind of wasting time.
All by myself, being so different from everyone else.
Then the FBI guys who are looking for the alien just show up in Eric's neighborhood and somehow know that Mac is there. By the way, I don't really know if they're FBI, they're just the guys hunting the alien, so I'm just gonna call them FBI guys for the rest of this review, because I don't care.
It's here. Get ranking in a capture group up here.
How would they know this? There's been no indication of anything, and why did they show up in this neighborhood? Just because there was a power surge? That could mean anything. It doesn't mean that the alien is in this neighborhood now, so they traveled all the way to California on a whim? Then we have another E.T. ripoff moment, but instead of using their fingers, they do this thing with their hands, and it just comes off as incredibly stupid. Eric's gotta go to this random girl's birthday party at McDonald's, and he decides it's not safe to leave Mac at home, so he brings him with him and just disguises him as a teddy bear. Then we have this very bizarre dance sequence that takes place outside of the McDonald's. And I should also note that Jennifer Aniston is actually in this movie as an extra right there. And the party has some interesting moments of its own, like the giant dance sequence that takes place inside the restaurant, and somehow everybody inside the restaurant knows the choreography. But then again, why not? Fast food restaurants are known to have giant, sudden choreographed dance sequences involving complete strangers that come out of nowhere. Just never when I'm there. And things get even better when Mac somehow floats up to the counter and starts busting a move of his own, even though his ass is kind of hanging out of his costume. I mean, how hilarious is this? A bunch of dancers almost get run over in the parking lot, and then they just go right back to dancing? The FBI guys show up and try to capture Mac, even though they have no reason at all to believe that he's even with this family in the first place. Thank God the entire parking lot has erupted into song and dance, which serves as the perfect distraction for Eric and Mac to make their getaway. And then we have this chase sequence, which once again looks really familiar, and this chase sequence is actually probably the most impressive part of the movie, considering all the stunts. Luckily, they managed to escape in the van.
Hey, those are my kids in there!
Those kids just ran off with a
little creature from outer space.
Wait, what? Why would you assume that? So then they go on this long journey trying to reunite Mac with his family, even though they have no clue where they are. But I guess at some point the family communicated to Mac their location, so Mac leads them to this abandoned mine. Then they go inside to find that Mac's family is pretty much almost dead until they revive them with Coca-Cola? With Coca-Cola? Fucking really? After they drive into town and buy some gas, the aliens escape the van and go into a store looking for more Coca-Cola, which causes a huge commotion when one of the aliens steals a security guard's gun. Outside, a shit ton of police show up, and when Eric tries to get the alien to drop the gun, the police just unload on them, causing the entire gas station to explode. Apparently, the explosion kills Eric until the alien family, who somehow survived the giant explosion, emerges from the flames, and once again, by ripping off E.T., they revive Eric and bring him back to life. But I bet you saw that coming a mile away. And of course, the movie ends with probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life, when instead of the alien family finding their way back to their home planet, they're accepted as American citizens and wear typical American clothes and drive a pink Cadillac? This raises so many questions that I'm not even going to go over them because they should be pretty obvious, and I'm just not going to waste the time. Then the movie ends with a bubble coming out of the car saying, "We'll be back," even though the mere idea that this movie would ever get considered for a sequel is just completely insane. And just look at these creature designs. I mean, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I just want to punch them in the face. Probably like a lot of you probably want to punch me in the face.